Hello, everyone. My name is Teresa Rascon, and I'm an intern at Pine Reads Review, which is a young adult and children's literary publication. And today I'm joined by Christian Cook, author of the YA book Growing in the Gray, which is out now. Hi, Christian. So nice to talk to you today.
Hi, it's nice to talk to you too.
Could you briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name is Christian Cook. I am the author of Growing in the Gray. I am from the suburbs of Detroit, currently based in Chicago. And pretty much those what my book is kind of loosely based off of those experiences.
That's great. Speaking on that, could you briefly tell us what inspired you to write Growing in the Gray?
So, Growing in the Gray was a book that I wanted to write because it's not something that I personally have read before. I wanted to write a book that was a little bit deeper than a book that I feel like a lot of young adult YA fiction books are based on, which is like heavy dialogue, but not really strong prose that are like the old school books kind of like did in the past. So I wanted to make a current contemporary story that was still fun and fresh, that with problems that young adults go through today, but with some stronger monologue and some stronger prose.
Yes, I could definitely see that in your book. I guess to first start off, I noticed that your novel follows a non-linear narrative where the book tends to kind of flash back and forth to Krista's time in Michigan after completing her first year in college to specific moments that occurred during her freshman year. What made you choose to go with this approach of writing the story?
Again, it's something that I didn't see, and I wanted to write something that was different, that was fresh. And the way Krista mind works is relatively similar to mine in a sense where I can be present in one space and time, but every now and then my mind sometimes like thinks about the future or thinks about the past. And in a way, I was wondering, am I the only one that thinks like this? Are there other people who are just 100% present all the time? So I really wanted to dive deeply into what it looks like for someone who struggles with being present, remaining present, and being in the moment.
That makes sense. So would you say, speaking on that, there are elements of either your own personal life or personal college experiences that are heavily reflected in the book?
I would say the main ones that kind of go that match my life is the Michigan and Chicago
Yeah.
storylines and the scenery. But there were a lot of different scenarios that Krista Clark got into that I just wanted to have fun with it and be really creative and give her like that. She's kind of coy and kind of shy, but you kind of see moments where she begins to speak up and kind of finds her voice. And then they have so many different fun adventures that necessarily didn't happen to me, but I'm like, let's just go with it. Let's have fun. I majored in public relations. Krista majors wants to be an art curator. I spent a lot of my time in museums, so I kind of understand that process. So was wondering what would it be like if someone did want to be an art curator? What's that process like? And I wanted to give it to someone like a character like Krista.
Yeah, I could definitely see the whole like artistic theme to the book, especially the amount of detail. So that was very clear. I also noticed that this book really does bring to light many of the challenges that the transition from childhood to adulthood has on young adults. One of
Yes.
the important challenges I noticed in the book is that it really explores the pressures that teenagers either entering adulthood or going to colleges to have a set career path or plan on how to get there from the very beginning. I know with Krista, she has an idea of what she wants to do, but for young adults like her sister Valentina, who may not exactly know what they want to do with their lives, what advice would you give to readers or young adults in general on how to navigate either college or deciding on a career path in general?
That's a really interesting question. It was easy for me to give that I know what I want to do mindset to Krista because I've been writing since I was a child, like entering like writing contests and love entering spelling bees. I had like a love for language at a very early age. But I do know so many of my friends and my siblings and cousins that they're just kind of wandering about. And I wanted to shine a light on that because not everyone knows what they want to do since they were 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. They have to experiment, they have to be willing to put themselves out there. So for some people who don't know what they want to do, like I said, try as much as you can and also kind of think about what do you naturally gravitate towards, what brings you joy, and figure out a way that you can monetize that and sustain yourself. Some people, college is not the route for everyone. It just so happened to be something that was the route for me. So I did also want to show that Krista decided to stick with college, but I also wanted to create a character that this character is like, you know what, this isn't for me. What can I do? I didn't want there to be any element in the story where I glorified one or the other, but I wanted it just to be a non-biased, true tale of what both of those routes looked like. Because most people don't know, I actually dropped out of college twice while I was in school and just kind of wung it a little bit. And I kind of saw myself think about if I didn't go back, this be working. I work specifically in events, so I
Mhm.
was thinking I could be an event planner or I could work at an event space and give tours. I would be happy doing that. So, really finding your passions and getting them aligned with the making money part, which is always a little harder for anyone to grasp.
Yeah, that's very understandable. I think another element of the book, especially involving around the character Krista, is that she sometimes struggles to figure out how to truly be her authentic self, especially during her time in Michigan, where you see she's yearning for like the freedoms and the opportunities she had back in Chicago, but she kind of is faced with sort of like maybe reality checks from either her father. By the end of the book, she really comes to learn how to be comfortable with being this true self, especially around her family. How would you go about readers being able to kind of demonstrate this trait of Krista to be comfortable with being their authentic selves?
It's a process and it's never something where I feel like I arrive at and I'm 100% forever. I still sometimes today, so whether I'm in certain rooms or meetings at work and I'm the only one that looks like me, sometimes I don't feel as 100% comfortable to be my authentic self. But then I remember I'm in this room for a reason. I have a point of view. I have a fresh perspective. It may not be the same as someone else's, but I can add value to a room. So I feel like anyone who is struggling to be themselves, they need to focus on where they can add value and just present themselves as that and not worry about maybe the backlash that could come from anyone that are fear of judging them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another theme I noticed in the book is that faith is really an important aspect of Krista. It's really important in her life. Many times in the book, she looks to God to kind of help her navigate or make sense of events in her life. And I believe this is not really a common thing to read in a book, especially in a YA book where the main character is so adamant about her faith. So, what inspired you to include this aspect in Krista's character and make her so vocal in the book about it?
I incorporated this in the book because that's how I am in my real life. I do personally believe that the conversation around spirituality, religion, faith is a very muddled concept, but everyone is looking to something outside of themselves to guide them. I personally gave Krista the character trait of being faith based. Like, not once did they step foot in a church in the book. I'm not saying you have to go to church, you have to follow these rules, you have to do this, that, and other. It's really about building a relationship with God and trusting Him to be your guide where while I was younger, I was taught that the more you talk to God, the more He talks to you. So I could skip church for a year and not go, but if I pray and if I really lean into the relationship building aspect, sometimes I do feel like I am almost like having a, like an invisible compass or something. So I wanted to illustrate what that will look like with a character. And it's, like you said, it's not something that I see a lot. And it's also something that people are straying away from. But I didn't want to stray away from a topic just because it's seen as not popular.
And that makes sense. And I also found it very interesting in the book how like some of the characters around Krista kind of comment about how she is so faithful, yet she does things that are not typical of somebody being so faithful. Like I believe her friends mention how like, she'll go to parties and stuff, but then the next day she'll want to go to church. So how is that like kind of wrestling with that concept?
That concept specifically is something I wanted to paint because I want to show a true, authentic story, especially for young people who do have faith. When they get to the late teen years and early 20s, I see a lot of people struggle and beat themselves up because they like specific music, or they didn't wait to have sex till they were married, or they don't go to church every Sunday. And they almost feel like they're failing God and God doesn't love them. And that's not true. It's people often confuse man made rules and concepts with the true love of God. And I really wanted to make that a separation where if it is something God is calling you to quit or to stray away from, you can work on that with Him. And you don't have to hide and feel ashamed about yourself the way humans would judge you specifically for taking part in all these activities.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another important, I feel like, aspect or concept that's brought in the book is Krista's relationship with the boy Victor, who she clearly likes. In some ways, it can kind of be viewed as being a little bit toxic in the way because there's so many aspects of Victor's character that she clearly understands. He has a flawed personality. There's aspects of him that she doesn't know would make him a good boyfriend material. And yet she finds herself deeply enthralled by him and struggles at times to let go of the relationship, even though she realizes that in the end she may not be able to get the level of relationship she wants with Victor. What was your intention in illustrating such a relationship?
That I feel like is relationships of today. The situationship has become the new relationship. So, like I said, I wanted to tell a contemporary story where everybody is trying to find clues about their love interest through Instagram, through Snapchat, through social media in general, where instead of being direct, everyone is leaning on something else to try to intrigue their partner. Like, oh, let me post this selfie to get him to like DM me after this. Like, I wanted that type of vibe throughout the book, where I feel like most people in their young adult life like someone that they shouldn't like. It's something about them that they're kind of enticing her. Krista didn't date in high school. She was kind of quiet. This is the first boy that really shows her heavy interest. She's not used to that. So she's playing into it, but there's always a part in the back of her mind saying, as interesting and as fun as this is, young man, I don't think this is going anywhere. So you kind of see her try to like put herself out there at parties, like meet different people and talk to people. She's figuring out that Victor's not the only guy that finds her attractive. Just because she wasn't like heavily sought after in Michigan,
Mhm.
that was maybe just because she was just a little too shy. If she put herself out there earlier, maybe she could have had a boyfriend in high school. So Krista Clark's character is a character that I really enjoy writing because you really just see her trying different things and you see her trying to see what sticks to her authentic personality.
Yeah,
And her inner monologue too, where she kind of like thinks a lot and she talks to herself and she's asking her own self questions along her journey, whether it be with Victor, apartment hunting, the city. Should I go back to Michigan? Should I stay here? Like she's literally questioning herself kind of like throughout the whole book, which is
yeah,
also something that I feel like young people do all the time. They're like, I think I want to do this. Can I do this? Am I really this good at this? Am I gassing myself up? Are other people just saying I'm good at it and I can't accept a compliment and I should just really not do it? And as being 25 now, Krista Clark is 17 and 18 in the book. I
hmm,
remember those years where like I every so often I was in those time periods where I'm like, what am I doing? In love too.
yeah. I feel like this is a great aspect of the book is that it really puts you in the mindset of like a teenager who is expected to kind of like switch off the whole childhood mindset and go straight to the expectations that you have being an adult, but they're still navigating that. Like there's some aspects of the character where you could kind of feel like, mm, maybe that's not the greatest idea, but it makes sense because Krista is still young. She's gonna make mistakes. She's not
Mhm.
gonna completely understand certain aspects. So that's how the book does a great job kind of illustrating that growth in her, making her she's not this perfect and ready college student who knows exactly what she's going to do. She's making mistakes,
First,
but she's learning. She's learning from them, which is a very great trick about this. Um, what do you hope personally for readers to kind of take away from reading Growing in the Gray? Were there any lessons you kind of hope they took away from Krista's journey, or maybe any other aspects of the book?
with art specifically, I always like to leave it heavily interpretive. I am one of those people who don't like art that tries to force you to take home a lesson. But when you're reading this book specifically, there's so much you can kind of grab from.
Yeah.
And I want readers specifically to just be able to keep their mindsets open to possibilities. There is no one right way to do anything. I truly believe there is many different ways to find success, either in career, in education, in building yourself and molding yourself to the person you want to be, and in love specifically.
Mhm.
Where there is, I do think there is a different way to do things. Krista is not on a traditional path. She didn't want to go to a state school. She chose to go to an art school, and everyone was confused. Like, you're really bright, you're smart, like, why do you want to be an artist? Like, her dad was just like, why can't you just probably be work at the family business with at the truck company? So, and then you have Valentina who just wants to explore. Exploring is fine. You don't have to be a senior vice president at 25. What if you start your career at 30 and then keep it forever? I see a lot of my friends now switching career paths in their mid 20s, and we just got out of college like 3 years ago. So I really want to tell an authentic tale of this modern Gen Z millennial discovery path to life. And I want it to be something people can connect with, whether it's Krista's character, whether it's Valentina's character. There's probably way too many boys that could connect to Victor's character. Like, we just have a lot going on. And if anything, like I said, just taking away an open path and approach to life. And you see her, even though the cards are stacked against Krista, she really does go full force for what she really wants.
Yeah. Um, if you could, looking back on your book, if there's anything, which was there anything you kind of wish you kind of expanded on more, or you would love to have an opportunity to maybe explore more in another book with a different kind of plot line or storyline?
I kind of want to add more of like a slight chapter in the next book, like a prequel a little bit, so you can see how Krista Clark was in high school. Not it just being described, but maybe there being scenes of her times in school where you can see like, oh, okay, so that's why she wants to change here in Chicago and really reinvent herself. Because she does have like that reinvention aspect a little bit, where she was like, you know what, I'm leaving the past behind, but I want to dig deep. Why does she want to so badly? I feel like that would kind of provide a little bit more of a narrative. I'm trying to think. And really also with Valentina's character in the next book, I want to flesh out a little bit more of where is Valentina now? Valentina decided to leave, go to a whole nother continent. Did that help? Is Valentina still lost? What, like, and that's another character I feel like people are reaching out to tell me, like, we want to know more about her. So all of these characters also illustrate why Krista is the way she is. She feels like Valentina is the child that her parents have to worry about. Catherine is just like this quiet, aloof sister where she's just like, you know what, I'm in my own world. But you see how all the relationships, even with her parents, affect why she is the way she is. Her dad, Craig, is pretty strict. So she's like, you know what, I don't want to hear anything from you. I live my life. I'll report to you when things get together, but please do not badger me about my path, what's happening, school, costs, any of that.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I feel like would be a great opportunity to expand on, especially Valentina, because like you mentioned previously, how like not every teenager becoming an adult thinks college is the best for them. So that'd be a great thing to explore.
Mhm.
And speaking of books, do you actually have any upcoming novels you'd like our viewers to keep an eye out for? I know you
Yeah.
mentioned some ideas you're bouncing around, but is there anything like You should
By
be excited now.
with technicality, you get like an inside scoop. There will be a sequel to this book.
Ooh.
I have already finished the first chapter. I know this book has only been out for 6 weeks, but like I said, I love writing, and when I read my own writing, I actually go through the book and, like you just said, what did I want to expand on? I'm like, should I have dug a little bit deeper? Maybe and then that's where I go. I'm like, okay, so let's discuss this here. This is a question readers may also have as well.
Wow, that's very exciting news. Well, I believe that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for talking with me. This was a very insightful conversation.
Thank
Uh,
you for having me.
it's no problem. Growing the Gray is currently available where books are sold. Once again, thank you so much, Christian, for talking with me today. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.